Thank you. For nearly years, we've been the cornerstone in the Midlands, serving not only the community and the state, but also for threatened and endangered species from South Carolina and beyond. As the state's largest gated tourist attraction and one of America's best zoos and public gardens, Riverbanks is recognized globally as a leader in animal care, welfare, and wildlife conservation. A visit to the zoo encourages individuals and families and school children to connect to nature. With these meaningful connections, they inspire and they have lasting impressions on conservation. Our Riverbanks team, along with the friends at DNR and many other state, federal, and NGO partners, are working together tirelessly every day to protect the animals in our care and secure a future of endangered species. Despite the challenges of the past year, we've remained unwavering in our mission and dedication to the protection of wildlife and wild places. Today marks a huge win for conservation and the determined work of so many. Governor McMaster, members of the Assembly, we thank you. And again, we are so proud to be part of this initiative to protect some of South Carolina's most precious natural resources. It's my honor to welcome Governor Henry McMaster to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Tommy Stringfellow. It's a pleasure to be back out at Riverbanks Zoo. They're having a good time back there behind us. As Mr. Stringfellow said, this is a great state, and one thing that we have and that we cherish is our animals and the wildlife, and that's one thing that makes South Carolina special, with the oceans on one side and the mountains on the others, and the rivers and the marshes and all that in between, and all these animals from different parts of the world that are able to thrive right here. And while they're thriving, they're teaching us all not only about them and about nature, but about ourselves as well. And some of those, I know my friends in the General Assembly will recognize some of the racket going on back there, is hearing it very often up in the General Assembly. But this is a good day. Every day we try to find ways to make things just a little bit better for the future and for the people of South Carolina, and particularly for the young children, for them to learn, to grow, and prosper. In this bill, the Native Reptiles and Amphibian bills, known as the Turtle Bill, is a great one, because we discovered over the years that people were taking our wildlife elsewhere, smuggling them out, smuggling in non-native species, and we had some tools to deal with it, but not enough. But our legislators in the House and the Senate stepped up, recognized we needed to do this, and so they've done it, and they've made us just a little bit better, a little bit stronger, a little bit better place to live, work, and raise a family. And the chief sponsor was Bill Hickson. Bill, would you come forward, please?
Thank you.
And bring Randy Ligon with you.
Thank you, Governor. I got Representative Ligon is here with me today also. He was one of my co-sponsors. I learned about box turtles a lot from my friend back in North Augusta, Lenny. He was walking one day on the Greenway in North Augusta and saw a box turtle and wondered why there wasn't many box turtles that he would see. So he went back and researched it on the internet and found that there was a market for black turtles over in Asia, and South Carolina's turtles were being sold for thousands of dollars to a foreign country. And so people were going around our state collecting these turtles, and they had turtle shows and stuff, and they were selling these turtles and they were shipping them to a foreign country. I didn't think that was right. And so Lenny has helped me, along with DNR and Representative Ligon and everybody, try to draw this bill up to protect South Carolina's natural resources. We also found out that this lizard that y'all been seeing in the newspaper, Tagu or whatever it is, I can't pronounce it. We don't have any in North Augusta, luckily. But anyway, that lizard is not native to our state. So we had no laws in our state. We were one of the only states that had no reptile laws. We had no laws in our state that would allow you to stop you from releasing these animals that weren't native to our state. So we encompass that in this reptile bill, along with the protection of our natural resources. And also we put some teeth in this bill that would stop people from releasing animals, reptiles that were not native to our state. Representative Ligon had a case up in his area where they busted somebody, DNR, that had several hundred turtles.
200 box turtles.
over 200 box turtles, and they were prepared to send them to a foreign country and make thousands of dollars off the resources from our state. We did not like that. We worked with DNR and Lenny and to draft a bill. It took us a lot to get done with the covert times and all we had in the House and Senate, but it sat on the Senate calendar, and my good friend Senator McElveen helped us get this through. And today, when the governor signs this bill, we're going to have a law that will protect our reptiles, it will protect our native reptiles, and it should stop people from bringing reptiles and turtles and stuff that aren't natural to our state and release them. Because if you see in the Keys, you have a lot of people down there talking about the python and the boa constrictor. It's taking over the Keys down there. We don't want some tagoo or whatever it is to come take over South Carolina and start eating our resources. So this bill does that. I'm proud to be a sponsor of it. I'm proud to have Representative Ligon as my co-sponsor. And at this time, I'd like to ask Senator McElveen, who escorted it through the Senate, to come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Representative Hickson. I'm Thomas McElveen, South Carolina Senate District 35, and I got my assistant, my almost 7-year-old daughter Adelaide here today too. And I'm gonna tell you, when the governor's office called me and asked me to be here today and gave me the opportunity to speak, I could barely contain my excitement, and I really still can't. And so, Governor, you might have to drag me off the stage if I go too long. But first thing I want to say is thank you to our governor. You know, this year has been a pandemic, and in the legislature, we lost a lot of opportunity, things we were working on, things we wanted to get done, just like everybody has. You know, that's been the kind of year we've had. But this is one thing that we got through the House and the Senate with the governor's help. This is a bill we got through that a lot of folks won't pay attention to, but it's very important. And I do want to say also, thank you to Riverbank Zoo for having us today. During the pandemic, we have worn our membership out this year. We have been to Riverbanks so many times with my daughter and son, and they've done an excellent job reopening and keeping everybody safe, so thank you for that. But I got to say on a personal note, because this legislation is probably as personal to me as anything else that I've seen in 8 years in the Senate. When I grew up in Sumter, my grandfather's name was Bert Watson, and he died about 10 years ago. And from the time I was a child until the time I was in my 30s, he's one of my best friends. And I can't remember, you know, a Saturday or Sunday growing up, or even as an adult, where he didn't drag me, you know, to the farm or in the woods or in the swamp, hunting and fishing, and really messing with reptiles and amphibians, frogs, snakes, turtles, you know, and learning more about those things. And Governor, you know, I know we talk about conservation, and you've been a champion for conservation, but like the governor said, if you grew up in South Carolina like a lot of us did, you know that conservation is more than just the oceans and the mountains and the beautiful places we have. It's the wildlife we have here. And a lot of times we don't appreciate those things until they're gone. And so, like Representative Hickson, I can remember growing up, I'd see box turtles all the time, sometimes dead on the road, sometimes in the backyard, but you see a lot of them. And in recent years, anecdotally, I just kind of stopped seeing them. But and didn't pay a whole lot of attention to that. But you know, I've learned, like he has, that a part of the problem is in this state, those animals had no protection. We protect squirrels in the state, but don't protect some of the most beautiful and magnificent animals we have. And so a couple of years ago, I was actually shooting skeet, Representative Hickson, with the director of the Georgia DNR, Rusty Garrison, and he was kind of telling me that, to his knowledge, you know, he couldn't believe South Carolina didn't have any kind of laws in place to protect these species that are native here and that are wonderful animals. And so Representative Hickson, I know, filed a bill in the House, along with my chairman of Fish Game Forestry, Senator Chip Campson, and Senator Vincent Shaheen. We also filed a Senate version, and were able to take some testimony back in January and served on the subcommittee. But you know, a lot of folks start talking to me, and what I've learned is everybody loves turtles. Everybody loves turtles. Everybody wants to help turtles. You maybe start losing some people when you talk about lizards and you talk about frogs, and when you get to snakes, you know, people just don't even want to talk about snakes. But the reality is, you know, is all these animals are important. And you know, when I got tired of trying to explain to people why we're trying to protect snakes, what I finally just told them is, you know, God put them here for a reason. We shouldn't let everybody else just be taking them away unchecked, so our kids can't enjoy them, and so we can't enjoy them. And so I think that's important. It's important to preserve that natural history we have. And I'll tell you, Mr. Dillman, I grew up actually, and I was going to be a herpetologist or a marine biologist. Then I had a few biology classes, and that dream ended. but I've always had that fascination I've actually always had a pet turtle, and I've enjoyed having my daughter and my son around animals. They're not scared of snakes because we've taught them about those animals. We've taught them about what to do and not to do and how to respect that wildlife. And just the other day, my son, 2-year-old son, actually caught a Mediterranean house gecko in our house, which is an invasive species, but still a good species, and we won't talk about that. But I guess what I'm getting at is, in a year where it's been hard for all of us, this is a bill that a lot of folks might not be tuned into, might not be front page news, but it's some of the most important legislation that we've passed probably in the last 30 years when it comes to conservation, Governor. And so I just appreciate the fact that not only were we able to save this legislation this year, get it passed and start making a difference, but I appreciate the fact that the governor has chosen to have an event here and to bring attention to it, because we all know it's important. And again, I thank you all, and look forward to DNR having a tool to start to enforce some of these things and to protect that wildlife. But with that being said, I'm going to actually introduce next Mr. Will Dillman with South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. Thank you. Thank you, Governor. Good call.
Thank you, Senator. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very happy to be here today and excited to celebrate this very important legislation and major conservation achievement that protects our native reptiles and amphibians. A little over a year ago, there was an article in the state paper that had said that the black market wildlife trade, a multi-billion-dollar industry worldwide, is an issue in South Carolina because some of our laws aren't strong enough to keep illegal wildlife traders from doing business here. And happily, with the passage of this law, this is no longer the case. Our reptiles and amphibians were being collected from the wild, often in very alarming numbers, to supply both the domestic and international pet trade, to supply food and traditional medicine markets overseas. And our state had really become the destination for people that wanted to exploit these resources because they lacked protections here. This lack of protection also provided a very easy pathway for wildlife that had been protected in some of our neighbor states to be collected and harvested there, transported to South Carolina, and effectively laundered. We've seen a number of high-profile law enforcement cases over the last several years that have really highlighted this problem and shown the role that our state has played in this trade. But this legislation is a major conservation win and a major conservation achievement that protects our native reptiles and amphibians. It protects our native turtles from commercial exploitation. It makes the release of non-native wildlife illegal, and it provides significant penalties for violators. Importantly, it also gives DNR and our law enforcement officers the tools that are necessary to protect and manage these species. We are extremely grateful for the support of our governor in addressing this issue, and we sincerely appreciate the commitments of Senator Campson, Senator Shaheen, Senator McElveen, Representative Hickson, Ligon, and Hyatt to provide protections for these important species, but also for their leadership in shepherding this bill as it advanced through the legislative process. We're also indebted to our stakeholders and to members of the reptile and amphibian community, some of whom are here today, for their very thoughtful input and for their support during this process. So South Carolina had too long been at the center of the trade in wild collected native reptiles and amphibians. But this legislation provides the protections that these species need to ensure that South Carolina remains a place where these species can thrive so that future generations can continue to enjoy them. And with that, I'd like to introduce Robert Boyles, the Director of the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Will. Good afternoon, friends. Really pleased to see everybody here today for a great day in which we celebrate a significant milestone in natural resources conservation and stewardship here in South Carolina. I want to thank Senator McElveen, Representative Hickson, Representative Ligon, your colleagues in the Senate and the House for bringing us to this day. And I'm reminded of a quote that I'm fond of, and it goes something like this. I find the great thing in this world is not so much where we stand, but in what direction we're moving. As the poet Oliver Wendell Holmes said that, and I think as we celebrate today the work that's gone into this bill and this statute to protect our wildlife, I think of what the governor referenced earlier, making things a little bit better. And Governor, I note that in an earlier part of your career, you spent quite a bit of time locking down illegal trade in other substances with Operation Jackpot as U.S. Attorney. And I think it's fitting today that we here celebrate with you under your leadership signing of this bill. So we're so grateful for our legislative leaders, for our governor, for his stalwart commitment to natural resources, stewardship, and conservation, and to the many friends who've gathered here today to celebrate. So thank you all for coming here. Thank Riverbank Zoo, Tommy and your staff for having us here. What a great facility. It reminds us what a great place South Carolina is to live and work and play. And so, Governor, it's the moment of truth. We're delighted to have you here. We look forward to your signature of the bill.
Thank you. Let's sign the bill.
Yes, sir.